Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a small favor, really quick, and look at someone new around you and say, "Hi, how are you?" Ask them their favorite food. Go. Now, how'd that make you feel? Uncomfortable? Weirded out? Maybe even embarrassed? Don't worry, you'll get it soon. My name is Gen, and I want to spark a huge improvement in the way you think today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to think about all the weird and crazy life choices that you made, which ended up making you sweat profusely for a first impression, or simply just a regular flop. What I've gotten all of you to do right now, being the meet and greet part of this talk, was nothing but a tiny bit of an experiment that I've done on you all. Well, at least I tried. I pretty much forcefully, or at least tried, to make you greet your seatmate and exchange personal interests with them, and shoved you out of your comfort zone. Youch. So, raise your hands if you felt some sort of awkwardness when you were greeting your seatmate. Well, better pick your heads up and listen, because this is going to flip your brain 180 degrees. First off, remember, anxiety and embarrassment are nothing but natural processes in the brain. According to the National Institute of Health, the pregenual anterior cingulate cortex is the part of the brain associated with embarrassment, shame, and anxiety. And this part of your brain goes into turbo mode on that first hit of embarrassment. Turns out, sometimes your brain makes a big deal of things it doesn't have to. Catch this. Sometimes your brain makes a big deal of things it doesn't have to. Just dropping stats on the average person like you and me who aren't psychiatric doctors will help in visualizing it. And I'm not going to bore your souls out. So, bear with me. I'm going to say that this feeling is natural in all human beings, and it isn't always negative. Don't believe me yet? Let's look for a real-life example. Aha, let me share my story. I started my pursuit in public speaking when I was in first grade. Until then, I was only considered by the teachers as that kid who won't shut his mouth no matter what. Big reveal, I'm still that guy. In my first public speaking encounter at this exact stage, I was given a random topic. I think it was something about what I would do if I were a dad, but I forgot what I wanted to say. The audience laughed at me, and the second I got off the stage, I was freaking out, and I was anxious. My brain was overrun with thoughts like, did I do well? And I hope they weren't laughing at me because I sounded weird. Catch it? Sometimes your brain makes a big deal of things it doesn't have to. Turns out, about half an hour later, when I came back up here to get the certificate, sure enough, I noticed that it wasn't as much of a big deal as I thought it was. Even the next day that I came to school, nobody outright made fun of me for doing something that personally made me feel so nervous. And just like this example, so are most of your real-life cases, unless you did something so crikey it's worth dinner table conversation for ages and ages. So why worry? Let me add an overly personal example. Anxiety and embarrassment are like that one friend who goes overboard on everything. Even if you just trip once and out of nowhere, there's emotional music and rainfall as if you were in a sad movie. All that only because you tripped? Anyways, we need to give anxiety some airtime. Let's get to the root of the cause. Raise your hands if you have ever wondered what causes anxiety. Here is what science states. Mayo Clinic says that the causes of long-term anxiety disorders aren't fully understood. And honestly, I never knew long-term anxiety was a disorder before this. However, according to the Mental Health Organization of the UK, some possible reasons for anxiety can be caused by other people, such as social isolation, traumatic experiences in childhood, pressure from society, lack of awareness for mental health, repeated calls of embarrassment, and so on in that fancy list of terrible things. But still, other sources like Calm Clinic say that developing anxiety implies that you have a coping problem. But then again, anxiety isn't always negative. If you were put up on stage out of the blue to talk about something you have no idea about, you would naturally be anxious. And take this, could possibly make you speak better because the adrenaline might make you feel like the main character, just like me. Or take this, if you had procrastinated instead of studied for your next test, you should be anxious. I'm kind of guilty for that myself. Science even affirms this, as stated by Harvard Health Publishing. Anxiety can be beneficial as it helps increase your focus and keeps you alert for danger when the situation warrants it. However, when feelings of fear or distress become overwhelming, their intensity is out of proportion to the situation, or they interfere with daily activities, it could indicate an anxiety disorder. This shows that, as I said earlier, anxiety can be positive or negative. So now that we know some possible causes as well as something about positive or negative anxiety, what do we do with the anxiety that's already there? To know that, we need to dig deeper into how negative anxiety works. All right, so here's how you can spot negative anxiety. You don't have to go out on an adventure. It's there in plain sight. Look carefully and see if these criteria meet up. First, if they make you become so judgmental of yourself. If something embarrassing, for example, happens and you're excessively critical about it, that's the gateway to your next sign, which is, second, destruction of your self-confidence. If your anxiety, which could be caused by your past embarrassment, festers to a certain point by your extreme self-judgment, you might not be able to function properly. And here's where it starts to affect you, leading to 3, obstruction of your personal growth. If you can't function without becoming too harsh on your own self-image, you won't focus on striving to succeed. You'll focus too much on not failing. And negative anxiety or embarrassment is not going to help with either of the two. Generally, when you have anxiety, you feel alone and don't want to reach out to people you know who might be able to help. So what can you do? What is the first step? It's not as complex as it seems, and it doesn't really involve talking to everyone you know. To begin, take the initiative to do something productive by yourself. It can be doing your homework for an upcoming test, going out on a walk to improve your health, or even writing your very own TED Talk, which my anxiety-stricken self had been doing since the 5th of July. It will get you out of a dormant state, out of the bunkers, out of your comfort zone, step by step. This will help you get your results, being focused and ready, consequently reducing your negative anxiety, instead of what most people do, like laying in bed and wasting their time staring at their phone. All right. So you did that first bit. You did the walk, work, write a TED Talk. You feel ready, prepared, locked in. But then you remember last week, spilling the beans on something a little too loud in front of the guy you were talking smack about, and he stares at you. Remember your friends promptly gesturing that you're in big trouble? The surge of embarrassment, the red face you got, and the feeling as if you're living through a tragic TV drama? Yeah, that. And then anxiety passes the mic on to embarrassment, also known as surviving your brain's never-ending blooper video. As I speak, this could easily be one part of the bloopers. But now, here's where it dawns on you. Anxiety and embarrassment work together to make your life much more difficult. And that level might depend. For some people, it affects them a little, but for others, it feels like facing a tidal wave. Now let's rewind. Redefining embarrassment here. Oxford Languages interprets it as a feeling of self-consciousness, shame, and awkwardness. Keep this in your mind. So you've just starred in your very own highlight reel of mess-ups, and now embarrassment is screaming, "Never show your face again." So now what? At the moment, it hits you like a train, but even if you said something weird in front of a crowd, the pressure of society dies down over time. People forget, but sometimes your own brain doesn't always get the idea. You know when you bring a few friends over to your house and there's that one annoying friend who stays 2 hours after the party? That's embarrassment right there. The one that overstays their welcome. And just like the friend who stays at the party long after everyone else is gone, that embarrassment, that feeling of self-consciousness, shame, and awkwardness lingers in your head. So, how do we kick it out? Or at least politely ask it to leave? First off, it happened, along with a lot of other things in life. Accept it. Laugh it off. Because when you do laugh it off, it takes away the upper hand of anybody that noticed. And they can't necessarily make fun of you for it because you're already laughing about it. Now what? Look around. Nobody really cares about that certain situation as much as you. Everyone's busy minding their own personal anxiety-doused moments. They don't have the time and effort to point out every single one of yours, unless they do. Now what? Bounce back. Move on. If someone points it out, things happen. Don't let that hinder you from performing at your A game. And finally, use it. Embarrassment is living, breathing proof in the shape of your thoughts that you are alive. Keep the embarrassment around so you can learn what your mistakes are and how you can overcome it. If you failed a test, for example, because you didn't study and you were embarrassed by a score, take that embarrassment and learn how not to get into that situation. Like in this example, by studying harder or asking someone to help you understand the material. If it doesn't really matter to you and you don't mind about whatever it is that happened, you won't get that feeling. It happened, you survived, done. Because that's what life is all about. Failure, self-assessment, adjustment, improvement, and going to the next chapter with a smile on your face. Catch that? Failure, self-assessment, adjustment, improvement, and going to the next chapter with a smile on your face. I don't know what you're going through, but at the end of the day, some anxiety is still okay. It helps you know your place, to get a hurdle to overcome. It helps to get that adrenaline that makes you perform like everything depends on your success. And the same goes for embarrassment. It makes you become a better version of yourself. These feelings can't take sides in your story. And ultimately, anxiety and embarrassment are what you make them out to be. You have the power. So make them your allies, not your adversaries. Make them your friends, not your foes. Make them your companions, not your competitors. But look, congrats. You're alive, and you're trying to build something up for yourself. And I appreciate all of you for it. Sometimes you might fail, but at the end of the day, you always improve. I'm Gen, and you were real with me. Thank you.